Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in your time zone. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Sunny.
And I'm Joe.
And sitting across from me, as always, is the man who serves as the gravity to my romantic fantasies. He's the guy who installs the speed bumps when I'm trying to go 0 to 60 on a wild theory, our resident logic master.
You know, I prefer to think of myself as the navigational system rather than the brakes. You provide the engine. I just make sure we don't, drive off a cliff. But I'm happy to be here.
Anchors, brakes, GPS, same difference. You keep us grounded. So Sip and Talkers, grab your coffee, your tea, or whatever it is you need to get through the day, because today requires the strong stuff.
It really does.
We are diving into a topic that feels like it was ripped out of a cyberpunk spy novel, but it's actually happening in boring office parks and quiet suburbs right here in the United States.
Bro.
We're talking about a massive explosion in the judiciary over the last 6 months regarding transnational fraud.
That's right. And to be clear for everyone listening, this isn't us just speculating based on some Reddit rumors. We've spent the last week combing through a stack of very serious documents, Department of Justice indictments, FBI statistics, and the new 2026 crypto crime report from Chainalysis. We're looking at data from August 2025 right up to, last week, February 2026.
And what we found, honestly, it kind of terrified me. We used to think of scammers as these lone wolves, right? Some guy in a basement guessing your password. But what we're seeing now is it's an industry.
It's not just an industry. It's a vertically integrated multinational corporation. We are seeing a surge of Chinese nationals engaging in high-level fraud and money laundering within the U.S., but the level of organization is arguably more precise than many Fortune 500 companies I've analyzed.
That's the scary part, is the business efficiency of it. And I think the best place to start is with the news that dropped just a few days ago. The Department of Justice released the verdict on a guy named Jingliang Su.
Right. The Su verdict, January 2026.
When I first saw the headline, I just thought, okay, another fraudster. But then I read the numbers. Walk us through this. This wasn't just a guy stealing credit card numbers.
No, not even close. Jingliang Su was sentenced to 46 months in federal prison, but the sentence is almost the least interesting part of this. It's the mechanics of what he was doing. Su was laundering approximately $36.9 million.
Nearly $37 million. That is a staggering amount of money for just one operation.
It is. And this operation hurt at least 174 American victims. But here's where we need to get a little technical for a second, because the how is just crucial. Su wasn't the guy calling you up and pretending to be your grandson. He wasn't the salesman.
He was the CFO.
Exactly. He was the financial infrastructure. This is what we call vertical integration in the criminal world. The scam centers, the people making the calls, they're usually in these parks in Southeast Asia, a place like Cambodia or Myanmar. But if you tell an American victim, hey, wire $50,000 to this bank account in Phnom Penh, what happens?
The victim freaks out. The bank freezes it. It looks suspicious immediately. Why am I sending money to Cambodia to invest in U.S. stocks? It doesn't track.
Precisely. So Su's job was to provide the domestic face. He set up shell companies right here on U.S. soil, real incorporated entities. So when the victim sends the money, they're wiring it to Global Ventures LLC in Texas or Ohio. It looks legitimate.
It creates that veneer of safety. Oh, it's a domestic wire. It's fine. It just lowers the blood pressure of the victim just enough to get them to hit send.
Right. But the second that money hits Su's U.S. accounts, his job is to launder it. He takes that cash and immediately converts it into stablecoins, specifically USDT or Tether.
Okay, for the listener who might just use Bitcoin or maybe doesn't touch crypto at all, why USDT? Why not Bitcoin?
That's a great question. It comes down to stability and speed. Bitcoin's price fluctuates wildly. I mean, if you steal $1 million, you don't want it to be worth $800,000 10 minutes later. USDT is pegged to the US dollar. It holds its value. So Su converts the cash to USDT and then beams it over to digital wallets controlled by the syndicate in Southeast Asia.
So he is the bridge. He's the financial gateway that turns trackable US dollars into basically untrackable digital tokens in Cambodia.
And he's doing it almost instantly. That's the efficiency. By the time the victim realizes they've been scammed, the money has already hopped jurisdictions 3 times and is sitting in a hard drive in a jungle compound.
It's so incredibly sophisticated. But Su wasn't working alone, right? I mean, you can't just set up infinite shell companies without leaving a paper trail. This brings us to that other case that really caught my eye, the whole student visa connection.
Ah, yes. The case of Mingzi Li and Zhe Yehojia. This was also an LA case from January 2026.
Always LA or New York. It feels like that's where all the hubs are.
Big cities, big international populations. Easier to hide. Now, this case highlights a really critical vulnerability in our system, the human resource supply chain for these operations. Lai and Jia were Chinese nationals who entered the U.S. on student visas.
Visas meant for education. You know, I'm coming to get my master's degree.
Correct. But their visas expired. They stayed. And instead of going home, they were recruited, or perhaps, and this is the scary part, were planted from the start to operate a laundering cell. Their specific network moved about $13 million.
So wait a minute. Is it that they came here to study and then, broke bad? Or is the syndicate actually using the student visa system as a way to deploy their staff to the U.S.?
The evidence suggests it's a mix, but increasingly it looks like a deliberate deployment strategy. Think about it. To open a bank account here in the U.S., you generally need a physical presence, a social security number, or at the very least a student ID and a physical address. Students have all of that. They are the perfect mules to set up the initial plumbing for these scams.
That is just so opportunistic. It's hacking the system, but not with code. You're hacking it with people.
It's social engineering at an immigration level. And once they are here, they act as station managers. They open the accounts, they receive the checks from victims, and they facilitate the crypto conversion. It's a literal branch office of a foreign criminal enterprise operating in, say, Irvine, California.
And we aren't just talking about a couple of guys in an apartment somewhere. The sheer scale of money that's moving back to these parks it's mind-blowing. We mentioned the Tai Chang strike earlier in the intro. That sounds like some kind of kung fu movie, but it was a massive federal operation, right?
It was a very significant move. In December of 2025, the DOJ's Scam Center Strike Force, and you have to notice that name Strike Force, which implies a military-grade response, they seized a massive network of web domains, all related to something called Tai Chang Park in Myanmar.
And for those who haven't fallen down this particular rabbit hole, when we say park, we are not talking about a place with slides and swings.
No. A park, in this context, is a fortified compound. High walls, razor wire, armed guards. They're essentially forced labor scam factories. Inside, you have thousands of people, many of whom were trafficked themselves, sitting at computers, working 16-hour shifts running these scripts. The FBI estimates this specific industry, centered in Southeast Asia, is generating over $10 billion a year.
$10 billion! That's bigger than the GDP of a lot of small countries. It's not just a crime ring. It's like its own sovereign economy.
It is an economy. And that's why the U.S. government seizing the domains is interesting. It's an attempt to cut the digital supply line.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's a game of whack-a-mole. You take down their website, they buy a new domain for $10, and they're back up and running in an hour.
It feels overwhelming. And it's not just the pig butchering crypto scams, right? I was reading the notes on that trade fraud case from October 2025. That felt really different. That felt corporate.
It is very different, but it falls under the same umbrella of cross-border deception. This case involved $54.4 million in fraud. But instead of stealing from grandma, this was about cheating the U.S. government out of tariffs.
This is the whole made in Taiwan labeling scheme.
Exactly. As you know, there are heavy Section 301 tariffs on goods made in mainland China. So what these networks do is take goods made in China, ship them to a warehouse and a transshipment point, places like Thailand, Malaysia, or Taiwan, slap a new label on them saying made in Taiwan, and then ship them to the U.S.
So they're just using Taiwan as a costume.
A mask. It's a gray zone tactic in the trade war. The DOJ is prosecuting this under the False Claims Act, but it just shows the range of this industrial complex. You have the heartbreaking elderly scams on one end and this massive corporate tariff dodging on the other. It's a buffet of fraud.
Speaking of heartbreaking, we can't skip the Oscar case. I hate this one so much.
The elder fraud case. Zhao Wang, who used the alias Oscar.
Oscar, it sounds so friendly, like the guy on Sesame Street.
That's the point. It's about trust. He pleaded guilty in January for a scheme that stole $27 million from over 2,000 elderly victims. This is the classic tech support scam. Hello, this is the IRS, or your computer has a virus, we need to fix it.
It just makes my blood boil. Because they are targeting a generation that was raised on high trust. My dad picks up the phone. If someone says, this is the government, his first instinct is to believe them. He doesn't assume it's a guy in a compound in Myanmar routing his call through a server in LA.
And that vulnerability is exactly what they monetize. But, even that Oscar-style scam is starting to look vintage. It's almost like the dial-up internet version of fraud.
Right.
Because what we are seeing now with AI, That is where the nightmare really begins.
This is the part that gave me chills. I was reading that 2026 Chainalysis report, and the numbers regarding AI are just, they don't even look real.
The growth is exponential. The headline number is that global crypto scam losses topped $17 billion in 2025. But the specific stat that should worry everyone is identity impersonation. AI-driven impersonation fraud grew by 1,400%.
1,400%. That is not a trend. That is a revolution.
It is. And we need to explain how this works because a lot of people think, oh, AI, like ChatGPT writing a text. No. We are talking about real-time deepfakes on video calls.
Right. In the old days, like, 2 years ago, if you were talking to a scammer on a dating app, they would never, ever video chat. They'd say, oh, my camera is broken, or I'm on a bad connection, because obviously the guy typing the messages doesn't look like the blonde model in the profile picture.
The broken camera was the ultimate red flag. If they wouldn't video chat, you knew it was a scam.
But that red flag is gone now.
Completely gone. Now, they insist on the video call. You pick up, and you see a handsome man or a beautiful woman. They are talking to you. The lighting is perfect. Their lips are moving in sync with the words. But it is a filter, a highly advanced real-time AI face swap that is overlaying a generated face onto the scammer's face.
So you are literally flirting with a filter.
You are having an emotional connection with a piece of software. And because our brains are wired to trust what we see, seeing is believing, we drop our guard. We think, well, I saw him, he's real. And that is when they ask you for the money.
It weaponizes our biology. It totally weaponizes our eyes. And when you combine this high-tech front end with that vertical integration we talked about earlier, the U.S. shell companies, the student visa mules, it's a machine.
It is a mature supply chain. The DOJ cases, Su, Lee, Jia, they prove that they have set up the plumbing before they even turn on the water.
I love that analogy, plumbing before the water.
It's accurate. The flow is. AI hooks the victim wires cash to a U.S. shell company, the plumbing. The cash is converted to crypto. The crypto vanishes to Southeast Asia. The money leaves the U.S. banking system in minutes.
And once it's in USDT and a private wallet in Cambodia, good luck getting that back.
It is nearly impossible, which is why the U.S. government has shifted strategies. They realize they can't just arrest the guys making the calls. They have to attack the structure. That's why the Scam Center Strike Force now involves the Secret Service. They're treating this as a national security threat, not just a petty police matter.
It's about time, because honestly, these aren't just thugs in tracksuits. From what we are describing, they are transnational CEOs. They have Wall Street financial skills to move the money, Silicon Valley tech to use the AI, and a Southeast Asian backend for low-cost labor. It is a global conglomerate of crime.
It is. And that leads us to the big question, the elephant in the room. I know you've been dying to ask this one.
Oh, I have been. And this is where we enter our immersive speculation mode. So help me understand this. We keep hearing about how strong China is, right? We see the headlines. They have high-speed rail that goes everywhere. They have incredible tech cities. They have a cashless society that is super advanced.
Sure, all that is true.
So if they are so strong and so tech-savvy, why are their citizens coming here to commit these massive crimes? Why are they targeting us? And on the flip side, why don't we hear about Americans mass scamming China? Is it just predation by the strong? Like, are they just coming here to eat our lunch because they can?
That is the intuitive thought, right? If they are winning, they must be taking from the loser. But I would argue it's the absolute opposite. It is not about strength. It is about arbitrage.
Arbitrage. Okay, Professor, dust off the chalkboard. Break that down for us non-economists.
Arbitrage in finance is just taking advantage of a price difference between two markets. You buy low in one place and sell high in another. In this context, the criminals are arbitraging the difference in regulatory environments and financial defenses.
Okay, lay out the factors for us.
Factor number one is the financial defense generational gap. Think about China's financial system. It is highly centralized. They have strict real-name systems for everything. You can't buy a SIM card without a face scan. You can't open a bank account without a national ID. Every single transaction on WeChat or Alipay is visible to the state.
So if you try to launder $10 million through WeChat, the alarm bells go off in Beijing instantly.
Precisely. They have these huge card-breaking campaigns where they actively hunt down mule accounts. Now compare that to the USA. We are privacy-focused. Our system is decentralized. We have thousands of regional banks and credit unions. It is relatively easy to open a shell company in Delaware or Wyoming with very little transparency.
So our privacy, the thing we value, becomes a shadow where scammers can hide.
Exactly. Our freedom is their cover. That is the first arbitrage. The second factor is capital flight. This is the engine that powers the money laundering.
This is about people wanting to move money out of China.
Yes. There is a massive supply of people in China. Wealthy individuals, corrupt officials, even regular business owners who want to move their money out of China. But China has extremely strict capital controls. You are limited in how much you can legally transfer abroad per year.
It's like $50,000 or something, right?
It's around that, yeah. So imagine you are a wealthy person in Shanghai and you want to buy a house in Los Angeles for $2 million. You physically cannot wire that money. You are stuck.
So you need a workaround?
Enter the scam syndicate. The scammers have piles of stolen USD in the United States, the money they took from victims in Ohio and Texas. The wealthy individual in China has piles of RMB. The syndicate acts as the illegal exchange house. They take the RMB in China and give that person the USD in America.
Wow. So the scam isn't just about stealing from grandma. It's about servicing the demand for people trying to get their money out of China. The victim's money is the liquidity for capital flight.
You hit the nail on the head. The person wanting to move money becomes an unwitting or sometimes a witting money launderer. The scam industry is solving a problem for wealthy Chinese citizens.
That is diabolical. And it explains why it's so hard to stop. As long as people want to get money out of China, there will be a market for this dirty USD.
Correct. And finally, factor number 3 is simply target value. Why target Americans? Because the average U.S. retiree has a 401k, maybe owns a home, has access to credit lines. It is a high-profit, low-risk scenario compared to scamming a Chinese worker who might have less disposable savings and is protected by a massive surveillance state.
That makes total sense. Follow the money. But go back to my other question. Why no American scammers in China? Is it just because we don't speak Mandarin?
That is part of it, of course, but the technical barrier is almost insurmountable. Americans cannot easily break into the closed loop of WeChat and Alipay. You need a Chinese national ID to function in that digital economy. You can't just go there and open a burner account.
You'd be locked out of the entire economy, basically.
And then there is the surveillance. China has anti-fraud apps like the 165 app, which is on almost everyone's phone. It alerts you if a known scammer's number calls you. Plus, there's ubiquitous facial recognition cameras. If a foreigner tried to set up a scam center in Shanghai, they would be caught in hours.
So it's not that Americans are morally superior and wouldn't dream of scamming. It's that we literally can't do it over there.
Crime flows to the path of least resistance. The U.S. is an open system with high rewards. China is a closed system with high surveillance. The crime flows from the closed system to the open one. It's almost like physics, really.
That is a fascinating way to look at it. It stops being about national character and starts being about systems and incentives. But speaking of systems and national character, this brings up something that has been bugging me, the run phenomenon.
Yes. Run, or runzu, as it's known on the Chinese internet.
Run philosophy. It's this idea of emigrating, of fleeing, and I see this huge paradox, and I call it the scumbag X analogy.
I am almost afraid to ask where you're going with this, but please, go on.
Okay, stick with me on this. You know that guy who talks trash about his ex-girlfriend all the time? She's crazy, she's a mess, she's broke, her life is falling apart. He tells everyone who will listen how absolutely terrible she is.
I think we all know that guy.
But then you find out he is constantly texting her, he's driving by her house, he's trying to get back together. He is completely obsessed with her.
I fall.
That is what the social narrative feels like. We hear all this propaganda coming out of certain channels. America is a hellscape, shootings every day, complete chaos. Japan is sinking, total economic ruin. Taiwan is a political mess, but everyone who can afford it is trying to run to these exact places. Why? What is happening?
This is a classic case of cognitive dissonance meeting risk hedging.
It's so confusing. If the propaganda says the U.S. is a burning building, why are you trying to move your family into the fire?
Let's analyze the propaganda versus the reality. The narrative goal in many authoritarian systems is what political scientists call the externalization of legitimacy. If you cannot prove to your people that your economy is doing great or that your system is the best, you have to prove that everyone else is doing worse.
We might have our problems, but look at them. They are on fire over there. You should be grateful for what you have.
Exactly. This stops people from comparing systems critically. If the U.S. is painted as nothing but shootings and homeless camps, you stop asking why your own salary got cut or why your property value is dropping. You feel grateful for your stability.
But the body is honest, right? That's the phrase I keep seeing. The mouth says no, but the body says yes.
Voting with your feet is the ultimate metric. Despite the rhetoric, China is a top immigration source. Why? Because people, especially those with means, want asset safety and legal predictability.
They want to know their money is theirs and that the rules won't just change tomorrow.
Correct. In the U.S., for all of our flaws, if you buy a house, it is your house. The government can't just take it because the policy changed overnight, so you get this split consciousness. Anti-American is the job. Living in America is the life. You say what you need to say to survive in the domestic internet environment, but you do what you need to do to secure your family's future.
It's just survival. It's not hypocrisy. It's just adapting to the environment you're in.
Look at the comparison table we drew up in our notes. Propaganda says, the U.S. is dangerous and chaotic. Reality says, the U.S. is the global hub of AI, innovation, and offers the highest wages in the world.
Right.
Propaganda says, Japan is dying and has had a lost 30 years. Reality says, Japan has excellent healthcare, incredible social order, a stable stock market, and is a wonderful place to live.
So people see through the fog, or at least their survival instinct sees through it for them.
Which leads to what you call the philosophy of confidence.
Yes. This was my big aha moment while we were prepping for this. The root of this entire contradiction, the scamming, the running, the propaganda, it all comes down to one word: confidence.
Explain that.
Well, think about it. If you are truly confident, like deep down in your bones, confident in who you are, you don't care what others are doing. You don't need to put them down to feel good about yourself.
I call this the golden rule of geopolitics. A society that truly believes its system is superior does not need to spend every day telling its people how bad others are.
Exactly. We don't have massive billboards in New York saying China is miserable just to make New Yorkers feel happy about living here. We rely on our own attraction, innovation, freedom, cronuts, whatever it is.
And Japan relies on its culture and its safety. Taiwan relies on its democratic vibrancy. They don't build their national identities solely on the negation of someone else.
It's like if you have to rely on the chaos of others to prove your stability, then your stability is actually really, really fragile. It's a house of cards waiting for a breeze.
It is. True strength is quiet. It attracts people naturally. It doesn't need to force them to stay or trick them into believing there is nowhere else to go.
That is deep. It makes me look at the news so differently now. Instead of getting angry at the propaganda, I almost feel, I don't know, pity. It feels desperate.
It helps to view it with detachment. It explains the behavior. It explains why the scammers are here. That's the arbitrage. And why the immigrants are here. They're seeking safety. They're all responding to the same structural incentives.
Well, before we get too philosophical and start staring out the window, contemplating existence, we need to give our listener some practical armor. Because as much as we understand the why, we still don't want to get scammed by the who.
Absolutely. Understanding the macroeconomics of fraud doesn't help you if your bank account gets drained.
So here are Sunny's tips for staying solvent in 2026. Rule number 1, don't trust online dating that turns into investment advice. I don't care how cute they are. I don't care if they say they have insider info on a new coin. If a date asks for your wallet address, you block them.
That is a hard rule. No exceptions. Real romantic partners do not ask for liquidity in the first week of knowing you.
Rule number 2. The perfect person rule. If someone DMs you and they look like a supermodel, have a PhD in finance, run an orphanage on the weekends, and they are miraculously single and want to talk to you, it's a scam. Or it's an AI. Either way, run.
Self-awareness is a security feature. And finally, a resource. IC3.gov. That is IC3.gov. It's the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. If you think you have been scammed, report it immediately. Time is money.
Why is speed so important in this?
Because of that layering stage we discussed.
Yeah.
If you catch it while the money is still in the U.S. shell company account, before Sue or whoever converts it to USDT, the FBI can often freeze it. Once it hits the blockchain and crosses the ocean, it's pretty much gone.
Use the resources. Don't be ashamed. These guys are professionals and they fool smart people every single day. Well, this has been a journey. From the dark corners of the dark web to the philosophy of nations, I hope this discussion helps our listeners find a calm perspective amidst all the noise. We don't need to hate others to love our home. True love for a country should be based on trust in the system and real-life experience, not on fear of the outside.
Well said.
Yeah.
Keep a clear head. Watch where the feet go, not what the mouths say. That is the ultimate truth detector. May we all live in an environment where we don't need manufactured enemies to feel safe.
Amen to that. Thanks for listening, everyone. And hey, before you go, do us a huge favor. Subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast wherever you get your audio. We really appreciate you.
We do?
And a special shout out to our old friend Mickey. You have to check out his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. He's got some new travel vlogs up.
Ah, yes. The YouTube drama. Apparently, poor Mickey is being throttled by the algorithm.
Yeah.
Is he getting shadow banned?
Yeah, he thinks the robots are after him. His traffic is down, so he's only posting once a week now. Slower than us, haha.
Well, quality over quantity, right?
Exactly. But hey, posting less also means less traffic, right, Mickey? It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But seriously, just be yourself, Mickey. You're the best. We are all rooting for you.
Hang in there, Mickey.
I'm Sunny.
I'm Joe.
We'll see you next time.